Day 2 of the meandering coverage, the hearings committee on the session of the joint staff of the hearing coupled in the Senate of the House. Sounds very formal. Looks like propaganda to me. It looks like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. They saw that was effective and it gripped the country's eye. But those were famous celebrities and that was a lot of money and it was a fun distraction, actually. This is different. These are men being persecuted, political prisoners, for something they did wrong. It was wrong to go in there and break stuff. I'm not saying that Proud Boys broke stuff, but the guys who broke stuff, that was bad. Give them a fine, misdemeanor, probation. You know, like the two radical lawyers who threw Molotov cocktails into a cop car and are getting away with a year. These guys have already done that. They've done a year and a half. Anyway. We might get bored of this. We already did a whole thing on this. That's why I didn't make it an episode. But we're getting example exhaustion at this point. So we're going to see how much we can stomach of day 2 of the January 6 hearings in a Censored.tv presents super special. PBS.
Good morning. I'm Judy Woodruff, and welcome to this PBS
Leftist
NewsHour special live
commentators
coverage
are ugly.
of the January 6th hearings held by the Select Committee of the House of Representatives to investigate last year's attack on the United States
The Select
Capitol.
Committee on the House of Representatives. Doesn't that sound so formal?
Hearings the committee plans to hold over the next 2 weeks. Today's hearings is starting a little later this morning than expected because of a last-minute witness change. Bill Stepien, who was former President Trump's campaign manager at the end of the campaign, will not be appearing due to a family emergency, we are told. And we are watching live pictures of the hearing. We're going to go there just as soon as Chairman Benny Thompson calls the committee to order.
Who are these fucking people?
As we wait, we'll say that in the hearing last Thursday, Chairman Thompson and Republican Representative Liz Cheney, there you see her on his left,
you know,
on
they
your
make
right.
they make it a black dude so they can make this a racial thing. And even Nick Quested was making it a racial thing. There was a lot of Southerners there, a lot of white people. It was about the election, the media, and Antifa burning down the country.
January 6th attack on the United States Capitol will be in order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare the committee in recess at any point.
I'm already getting bored.
Pursuant to House Deposition Authority Regulation 10, the chair announces the committee's approval to release the deposition material presented during today's hearing.
Yes.
Good morning.
Permission granted.
Last week, the Select Committee laid out a preview of our initial findings about the conspiracy overseen and directed by Donald Trump to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and block the transfer of power, a scheme unprecedented in American history. My colleagues and I don't want to spend time talking about ourselves during these hearings, but as someone who's run for office a few times, I can tell you at the end of a campaign, it all comes down to the numbers. The numbers tell you the winner and the loser. For the most part,
they did.
The numbers don't lie. And if something doesn't add up with the numbers, you go to court to get resolution.
Yeah, but the court refused to hear it.
That's the end of the line. We accept those results.
No.
That's what it means to respect the rule of law. That's what it means to seek elective office in our democracy.
The court said, we're not taking this to trial.
Numbers,
what was it?
Votes.
Pennsylvania?
They're your votes.
More votes than there are voters.
And the very least we should expect from any person seeking a position of public trust is the acceptance.
We've already got arrests from these mules.
Win or lose. Donald Trump didn't. He didn't have the numbers.
You're a liar.
He went to court. He still didn't have the numbers. He lost. But he betrayed the trust of the American people. He ignored the will of the voters. He lied to his
American people, a third of whom believed that there was some sort of meddling in the election. A third.
Had voted him out. And the courts upheld the will of the people.
A third of America's 100 million people.
This morning, we'll tell the story of how Donald Trump lost an election and knew he lost an election, and as a result of his loss, decided to wage an attack on our democracy.
That's a crazy allegation.
Boom, these explosions of bullshit.
Of your voice in our democracy.
So Trump weaponized Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, and old ladies, and to what? Stop Biden from becoming president? How?
His supporters stormed the Capitol.
It's such a wild allegation.
By Donald Trump to stop the transfer of power. Today,
how do you stop the transfer of power? You could delay it, maybe, and I don't think that was their plan. This is just repeating, and this is not going to. I can already predict we will not be doing this for 2 hours.
I've had the privilege of growing up in a tradition that didn't believe in the myths and the legends because we had to bear the brunt of them.
Care to offer.
It's weird that he threw that in there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Last week, as the chairman noted, our committee began outlining a 7-part plan overseen by President Trump to overturn the 2020 election. Today, we will begin looking at the initial part of that plan. President Trump's effort to convince millions of Americans that the election was stolen from him by overwhelming fraud.
Al Gore did this.
A federal court has already reviewed.
He forced a recount in Florida, if you recall. Hillary Clinton did this. She said it was Russian collusion, if you recall.
In the months following the election, numerous credible sources from the president's inner circle to agency leadership and statisticians informed President Trump and Dr. Eastman that there was no evidence of election fraud, close quote, sufficient to overturn the 2020 presidential election.
Okay.
The court's opinion methodically documents each of the principal reasons.
This is another logical fallacy with them. So at the very beginning, in the beginning, there was no evidence. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. I have no evidence that JFK was shot by the mob.
And you will hear in greater detail.
I still think it's true. I think they were part of it.
Told President Trump
the mob
that his claims of election fraud were nonsense.
Lyndon B. Johnson.
You will also hear much more from President Trump's own campaign experts, who had also concluded that his fraud claims could not be supported.
I thought that was a great dishonor to her and to her family.
So if these broad claims can't be supported, that doesn't mean they didn't happen.
You will hear firsthand testimony.
I don't have any evidence about Vegas. I have zero evidence that something went wrong in Vegas, but I know something went wrong.
Not to declare victory.
I know something ain't right.
The president understood even before the election that many more Biden voters had voted by mail because President Trump ignored the advice of his campaign experts and told his supporters only to vote in person. Donald Trump knew before the election that the counting of those mail-in ballots in several states would not begin until late in the day and would not be complete for multiple days. This was expected, reported,
What about when you stopped counting at 3 in the morning?
Testimony that President
and then
Trump
as we slept, Biden's votes magically started appearing.
And instead followed the course recommended by an apparently inebriated Rudy Giuliani to just claim he won and insist that the vote counting stopped.
They're really going at it.
Claim everything was fraudulent. He falsely told the American people that the election was not legitimate. In his words, quote, a major fraud. Millions of Americans believed him. Second, pay attention to what Donald Trump and his legal team said repeatedly about Dominion voting machines. Far-flung conspiracies with a deceased Venezuelan communist allegedly pulling the strings. This was, quote, complete nonsense, as Bill Barr said. President Trump's own campaign advisors, his Department of Justice, and his cybersecurity experts all told him the same thing. Here, for example, is White House lawyer Eric Hirschman. His view was shared by many of the Trump team he interviewed.
I thought the Dominion stuff was, I never saw any evidence whatsoever to sustain those allegations.
Get him out of here!
What the fuck is on his wall?
And third, as Mike Pence's staff started to get a
baseball
sense
bat and then
for what
3
Donald
weird
Trump
silver
had planned
hats
for January 6th, they called the campaign experts to give them a briefing on election fraud and all the other election claims. On January 2nd, the general counsel of the Trump campaign, Matthew Morgan, this is the campaign's chief lawyer, summarized what the campaign had concluded weeks earlier, that none of the arguments about fraud or anything else could actually change the outcome of the election.
Generally discussed on that topic was
whether the fraud, maladministration,
a weird-looking little man,
abuse or irregularities
looks like a pygmy shrew,
and read most favorably to the campaign, would that be outcome determinative? And I think everyone's assessment in the room, at least amongst the staff, Mark Short, myself, and Greg Jacob, was that it was not sufficient to be outcome determinative.
Don't be a cutie pie, okay?
As is obvious,
so
this
we
was
didn't have
before
enough
the
evidence
attack on the Capitol.
Therefore, it
Trump
didn't happen.
campaign legal team
They also
knew
refused to
there
investigate
was
it for the
no
most part.
legitimate argument
Yeah,
for fraud,
the judges, no judges would take these
irregularity, or
cases.
anything to overturn the election. And yet President Trump went ahead with his plans for January 6th anyway.
What plans?
Shut up.
Mr. Chairman, hundreds of our countrymen have faced criminal charges.
Oh,
Many are serving criminal sentences because they believed what Donald Trump said about the election,
yeah. So
and
we
they
talked
acted
about this on the
it.
show.
They came to Washington, D.C. at his request. They marched on the Capitol at his request. And hundreds of them besieged and invaded the building at the heart of our constitutional republic. As one conservative editorial board put it recently, quote, Mr. Trump betrayed his supporters by conning them on January 6th, and he is still doing it.
Okay.
Another conservative
That's
board
we talked about that on the show, right? First one was these guys are evil. Proud Boys are the spearheads. They're going to kill your family. We're all going to die. They're evil. We'll have to kill them. And then everyone went, nah. I saw that a lot of them are old ladies, and Proud Boys seem pretty cool. I think my vibe is Proud Boys are they're popular again because they can see they're getting railroaded here. And with this thing in what was it, California, where they went to a drag queen story hour, the whole article was written like they're homophobes. And then Daily Mail has to include everything, right? So they include It Ain't Gonna Lick Itself and all that Dallas shit. And people are seeing it going, I'm glad someone's going to these to say what's going on. And all the comments were like, good, nice job, boys, fantastic.
Today, we will begin.
So they realized, wait, vilifying them isn't turning out. So they're going, okay, wait a minute. No, they are nice guys. They're good guys. They're just brainwashed by Donald Trump.
Gentlewoman from California, Ms. Lofgren, for an opening statement.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In our opening hearing, we gave an overview of our investigation into the January 6th attack.
Are they all just going to read from teleprompters?
The overthrow of the election was complex and had many
That's not your mother, it's a man, baby!
hearings. But today, we examine the false narrative that the 2020 election was, quote, stolen. Former President Trump's plan to overturn the election relied on a sustained effort to deceive millions of Americans.
This is so radical.
Bullshit.
Only false claims of election fraud. All elements of the plot relied on convincing his supporters about these false claims. Today,
how do you know they're false?
The 2020 election was not stolen.
I don't know about, look, you know what? I don't even know about the Al Gore one and the Hillary one.
Evidence that Mr. Trump's claims of
It's
election
possible.
fraud were false, that he and
I
his
don't think
closest
Trump stole the
advisors
election.
knew
It's
those
possible.
claims were
I would never
false,
sit here and go,
but they
the
continued
false
to
claim. I'll say the false claim that the
right
earth
up
is
until
flat.
the moments
That's
before
about
a
it.
mob of Trump's
You couldn't even say about 9/11, these false claims of conspiracy.
will also show
We don't know.
that the Trump campaign used these false claims of election fraud to raise hundreds of millions of dollars
as a
from supporters who were told their donations
I'm gonna get a
were
beer.
for
Don't
the
stop.
legal fight in the courts. But the Trump campaign didn't use the money for that. The big lie was also a big ripoff. The former president laid the groundwork for these false claims well in advance of the election. As early as April 2020, Mr. Trump claimed that the only way he could lose an election would be as a result of fraud.
You know the things with bundling and all of the things that are happening with votes by mail, where thousands of votes are gathered, and I'm not going to say which party does it, but thousands of votes are gathered and they come in and they're dumped in a location, and then all of a sudden you lose elections that you think you're going to win. The only way
that's what I'm talking about.
Is if the election is rigged. Remember that. It's the only way we're going to lose this election. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. Did you see what's going on?
It's not a joke.
West Virginia, mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well.
Mr. Trump
dipped in shit.
Even before the election,
this is not going to end well means storm the Capitol.
If he lost the election, he would claim it was rigged. Mr. Trump was right about one thing. It did not end well. On election night,
Thanks for
Mr.
reading
Trump
to me,
claimed,
Mommy.
even before the votes were counted, that his loss was a result of fraud. Now, Thursday,
fuck up
we
and
had
leave.
testimony from Attorney General Barr about the Department of Justice investigation of Mr. Trump's fraud claims. Barr told Trump directly that his
Joe, but he's
claims
saying he
were
stole the
BS.
election, man.
Yet,
I
after
don't
hearing
care. We're
the truth
sleeping.
and that warning from the AG, Mr. Trump
Come on, just
continued to
impeach
peddle
him.
false claims of
Just make sure he can't run again. Come on, I'm sweating my balls off. Oh, I was kind of doing both.
I'm fucking sweating my balls off.
Justice investigated. He'll tell you how he told Mr. Trump repeatedly that there was no merit to those claims. Mr. Barr will tell us that Mr. Trump's election night claims of fraud were made without regard to the truth and before it was even possible to look for evidence of fraud.
Janet?
Attorney General Barr wasn't alone. You'll see and hear today other
No, we
Department
won't.
of
We're not
Justice
lasting that
officials
long.
and senior advisors to Mr. Trump that they told
Like,
him
I need a
claims
smoking
were
gun.
not supported by
Can you just say,
The
here is an
election fraud
email from
claims
Trump
were
to
false.
Enrique
Mr. Trump's
that
closest
says,
advisors
blow it up,
Mr.
hang Mike
Trump
Pence,
knew
fucking
Didn't stop him from
break the
pushing
window with a
false
police
claims
shield
and
at 3
urging
p.m.
his supporters
Like,
to
we're two people who's watched. This is the second round. The first round, we were watching it. There was no moment where we're like, oh my God.
Yeah, can you
That's
imagine
bad.
that email existed?
Right.
And then we saw Trump getting arrested, and he was like, I'm sorry. I just was so mad about losing that I staged a coup. I would just go like,
I'd be like,
What?
You did a bad job. All it is a bunch of dog whistles spread throughout your entire life, apparently.
and then
we're
Dinesh
supposed
D'Souza
to-
comes out and he goes, we did further investigation, and we found that all of the votes that were the mules were for Trump.
And yes, and it was only.
There was one for Toad. Otherwise, everyone else was so Trump fixed the election and still lost.
Right.
I would like to think that if and Dinesh said it and then Trump admitted it, I would like to think that we would be brave enough and non-partisan enough to go, well, fucking butter my toast in wet diarrhea and write what the fuck on the walls with it. Because I'm
I don't know if
stunned.
I like him that much.
President Trump's former campaign manager was subpoenaed to be here and was in Washington.
Did he go back to his bean world and pick a fellow bean?
The bean really bugs me.
Mr.
Although his
Stepien
suit fits
attorney
pretty
is
nice,
here
and
with us
after
today.
seeing Giuliani's bizarre
Mr.
crepe
Marino
collars, it's
And
nice
he
to
was
see a shirt that
advised-
fits.
He has advised us that Mr. Stepien's wife
Can you turn
went
it up?
into labor this morning. Mr. Stepien unexpectedly had to travel to be with his wife, and we wish him
Dude, you
the
had a
best.
great excuse to get out of having to be
Due
at
to
the birth.
depth and rigor of our
Sorry, honey, I gotta go
investigation,
save America
several
from
hours of Mr.
the Proud
Stepien's
Boys.
testimony from when we interviewed him in February, and we will be presenting that testimony today. I'll now swear in our witness. The witness will please stand and raise his right hand. Do you swear or affirm on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Why is your
whole
pinky
truth,
wandering?
and nothing but the truth?
Oh, yeah.
So help you God. Thank you. You may be seated. Let the record reflect the witness answered in the affirmative.
Let the
I now
record reflect that
recognize
though I resemble a bean, this next
I wanna
witness
start
has
by
more of pig
showing
vibes.
A video that tells the story of what was going on in the Trump White House on election night in November of 2020.
Do you remember where you were on the night of the election, November the 3rd?
I was at the White House.
You know where specifically over the course of that night you spent your time within the White House?
There was an event that was organized in the residence, so I moved between the residence, a room sort of off the residence.
Look at that
where
beautiful,
some family
beautiful
members
bird.
were.
I take it the president was upstairs. In the
I hate him.
residence.
He was upstairs. I will
concede
on the first floor.
that it really bothered me that Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, and Ivanka Trump were such a big part of the White House. And Ann Coulter said that the day he was elected. She said, "This isn't a monarchy. I don't want to see your fucking kids in there."
When you got to the White House.
And we didn't see Don Jr. and Eric much. But then these two cunts. I'm pro-Israel, but I'm not a raging Zionist like Jared Kushner. I don't want him in there describing foreign policies to the staff. And Ivanka Trump, she makes purses. So what's this?
Red Mirage, as the debate was being
make it a whole screen.
The Fox News Decision Desk is calling Arizona for Joe Biden. That is a big get for the Biden campaign.
Arizona's called. Do you remember that?
I do.
What do you remember happening where you were when Arizona was called?
There was surprise at the call.
Who was surprised?
Is that illegal?
Most everyone in the room.
Were you being one of them?
Yes.
Did that shift the atmosphere or the attitude in the White House?
Completely.
How so? Can you describe that?
Because Fox News was the first one to go out and say that.
So was it anger kind of directed towards Fox News for making a call more so than like disappointment that
what's this got to do with anything?
The campaign lost Arizona?
All the above.
I think gloating now? Like, what is this part?
Both disappointed with Fox and concerned that maybe our data or our numbers weren't accurate.
Were you in the White House residence during the sort of past midnight into the early morning hours of November 4th?
Yes, oh sure. It went over beyond midnight, yes.
Do you remember Rudy Giuliani?
I don't remember what we were doing
on election night and into the early hours the next morning.
It was you, me, and Milo.
When he came.
You, me, and Milo?
Yeah, during the election night, right?
I was with fags on election night?
Well, one former fag and one regular cool guy.
Oh, one former fag and one present fag.
No, a never fag. I was a never fag. I was a never fagger.
What were we doing?
He was looking to talk to the president.
I'll pull it up.
And it was suggested.
Did we broadcast it?
Yeah, of course.
To several of us.
My mind's. I must have menopause.
Menopause, or
you said that you had heard that Mr. Giuliani wanted to talk to the president, and then he was directed your way. Did you end up talking to Mr. Giuliani when he was directed your way?
I did.
What was
we
that
did a 6-hour show.
A lot of conversations were directed my way. A few of us.
Oh shit!
Myself,
yeah, I was at the old crappy studio.
Jason Miller, Justin Clark, and Mark Meadows.
Those glasses are ridiculous.
In a room off the map room, to listen to whatever.
And then when did we
Rudy
can it?
Presumably wanted to say to the president.
Well, remember they didn't say that they were going to count the votes. It lasted weeks. Remember?
Oh yeah, I remember now. We declared Trump the winner.
Yes,
and would make Vice President. You know.
So he came out and spoke. Remember, because he was like, "Yeah, guys, we're done."
Yeah, we declared him the winner. We celebrated, and then we had that video we made, the sizzle reel. And then when it turns out he didn't win, we played the other sizzle reel where we're screaming, "No!"
Yes.
Computer, how old is Ryan Katsu Rivera?
Here's something I found on the web. According to MarriettBiography.com.
Listen.
He is 36 years old as of now.
What?
False.
That's sad.
When is Donald Trump's birthday?
Donald Trump's birthday is on June 14th.
Oh, happy birthday.
Wait, is it June 14th?
Tomorrow. Tomorrow is Trump's birthday.
Oh, yeah. People wanted us to make our Trump episode tomorrow. But I want to do it on July 4th. I want to do Canada Day on July 1st and then Trump Day on July 4th.
Righteous.
Anyway, let's hear more of this. We're not going to make it much longer.
Still going to be counted for days. And
it was AIDS?
Far too early to be making any proclamation like that.
I remember saying that, to the best of my memory, and I was saying that we should not go and declare victory until we had a better sense of the numbers.
Hello,
Okay, can you be more specific about that conversation, in particular what Mayor Giuliani said, your response, and then anybody else in the room's response?
I think effectively Mayor Giuliani was saying, we want it. They're stealing it from us. Where'd all the votes come from? We need to go say that we won.
Nothing wrong with that.
And essentially that anyone who didn't agree with that position was being weak.
What was your view at the time as to what he should or shouldn't say?
I felt ugly. I felt gay.
I don't know that I had a firm view as to what he should say.
The only way any of this is remotely relevant is if one of them, and they better be pretty close to the president, either Trump, Giuliani, someone like that, said, we need to stop this from happening. We need to mobilize our supporters and try to impede Biden.
Right.
By any means necessary.
This is a side quest. I don't know what they're
this is all like,
at.
so you bet you hated it when you found out you lost. Did you cry like a little bitch?
Were you a little sketched out that all the mail-in voting was like the first time this has ever happened, and maybe a little curious as to what the fuck was going on?
This is the war on questioning authority.
What was the longest it ever took a president to be like confirm the winner?
Well, remember when Trump won? We were still partying. Right. It was like midnight.
It was the same night. It was like, yeah, he won.
Oh yeah, remember everyone picked me up and on the shoulder. It's one of the greatest moments of my life. I have it framed in my home office.
It took weeks for this. Did it?
And it always will from now on.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the way government works. Once they get away with fucking up, that becomes the norm.
Going in a different direction.
Anyway, let's hear more from the Winklevoss twins.
Fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country.
An embarrassment.
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. We did win this election.
Again, every president that I can remember who lost said that, or a version of it. Take it away, Beanie.
4th, 2020.
Beanie Man.
Thank you. Mr. Stepien also testified that President Trump had no basis for declaring victory at that point in time.
Stepien? Is he reading that wrong, or is he talking?
My belief, my recommendation was to say that votes were still being counted. It's too early to tell. Too early to call the race, but we proud of the race we ran, and we think we're in good position, and we'll have more to say about this the next day or the next day whenever we had something to say.
No Proud Boys in this particular episode.
Thank you.
Piggy.
Stalwart, after the votes were counted, who won the presidential election of 2020?
Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. of the great state of Delaware.
Thank you. That's the bottom line.
There's nothing smart about you, Joe.
This is such a weird ritual. This is just a victory lap, a gloating session that has nothing to do with justice. As an outsider, pretending I don't have allegiance to Proud Boys or Trump, I want to see the smoking gun. I want to see you show me Proud Boys planning to attack the Capitol. I want to see the texts, the telegrams, whatever. And then I want to see Trump also in cahoots with anyone knowing of this plan or supporting this plan in any way.
What does that mean?
Start with that. You know, the number one rule of journalism is you start with the who, what, when, where, and why. 5 W's. You get it out at the beginning. And you don't bury the lead. How much did Avatar make? That shouldn't be in paragraph 4. It should say 2.6 billion worldwide in the opening sentence. And then if you want to keep reading, I got some other info.
And then you wait and start counting. And it depends on which ones you count first. But usually it's election day votes that get counted first. And you see the Republicans shoot ahead. And then the process of bailing and binding and unbinding all those mail-in votes And some states like Pennsylvania refuse to count the votes first, so you have to wait for all of that to come in. So in every election, certainly a national election, you expect to see the Republican with a lead, but it's not really a lead. When you put together a jigsaw puzzle, it doesn't matter which piece you put in first, it ends up with the same image. So for us, who cares? But that's because no candidate had ever tried to avail themselves of this quirk in the election counting system. We had gone to pains, and I'm proud of the pains we went to make sure that we were informing viewers that this was going to happen, because the Trump campaign and the president had made it clear that they were going to try to exploit this anomaly. And we knew it was going to be bigger because the percentage of early votes was higher, right? We went from about 45% of the votes being early and absentee to, because of the pandemic, that increased by about 50%. So we knew it would be longer, we knew it would be more. So we wanted to keep telling viewers, hey, look, the number that you see here is sort of irrelevant because it's only a small percentage of these votes.
So this red mirage, that's really what you expected to happen on election night.
Happens every time.
Thank you, Mr. Stirewalt. Now, I'd like to play a clip of
What's this got to do with anything?
General Bill Barr, who also explains
they love their Bill Barr.
what was expected to happen on election night.
Good name for a bar. Bill's Bar. Bill Barr.
Right out of the box on election night, the president claimed that there was major fraud underway. I mean, this happened, as far as I could tell, before there was actually any potential of looking at evidence. And it seemed to be based on the dynamic that at the end of the evening, a lot of Democratic votes came in, which changed the vote counts in certain states. And that seemed to be the basis for this broad claim that there was major fraud. And I didn't think
it wasn't
much of
a
that
slow
because people had been talking for
change.
weeks and everyone understood for weeks.
It turned on a
that was
dime.
gonna be what happened.
And it was right around when people said they had to stop counting because there was leaks. Remember that? The water, the pipes burst.
Oh, yeah.
His wife, as they welcome their child.
And then the massive pieces of cardboard on the windows.
Had discussions.
My dad said it best. GoPros above each counter. Anyone can tune in at any time.
And that early votes would favor him, but that lots more votes would be counted over the course of the night and the days after. So let's play clip 1 from our interview with Mr. Stepien.
It took 4 days, by the way.
I recounted back to that conversation with him.
You know what ruined
in which I
law?
said, just like I said in 2016.
Lawyers getting paid by the hour and essentially being trained to drag shit out as long as possible. This is the least efficient meeting I've ever attended. And I've attended some doozies. I used to work in advertising. Look how broad my shoulders are, Ryan. You'll never have shoulders like this.
Your right one seems bigger.
Well, that's the angle I'm sitting at.
Oh, yeah, I see. What happened?
Still there.
You stopped flexing?
I relaxed.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know why you were so tense before.
Look at that.
And now.
See, this is what I do after arm day. This is why I should play football more. I should be a running back.
I think he expected that from me.
Look at that.
How many people have
this
arm
is
day?
this is shoulders. This is a real man.
Yeah,
You'll never have shoulders like this.
Those are nice delts.
I'm kind of bobbing a little bit.
Yeah.
So I just like I did in 2016.
Don't go away.
So let's watch a short clip of President Trump speaking after he received that information.
Charge is the sentence
Death
for
by
supporting the people of January 6th. Is it the death sentence? Because I am being bored to death.
To find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list.
Yeah.
So when former President Trump said that, it contradicted what his advisors had warned would happen. We all know that mail-in ballots played an important role in the 2020 election.
Sure.
Yeah,
However, President Trump continuously discouraged mail-in voting. Mr. Stepien was so concerned about the president's position on mail-in voting that in the summer of 2020, he met with President Trump along with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Let's play clip 4.
Meeting that was had. In particular, I invited Kevin McCarthy to joined the meeting, he being of like mind on the issue with me.
So you know what they're
in which
doing right
we
now, right? They're explaining that
made our
weird
case,
kajunk.
Oh,
Remember that thing?
for
yeah,
why
the huge
It was
spike.
like
we
this,
believed
and
mail-in
then
balloting, mail-in voting.
all of a sudden, Trump was
not
down
to
and
be
Biden was
a
up.
Bad thing for his campaign.
And their argument is yes, because of the mail-in ballots. I understand that the mail-in ballots came in
President
slower,
Biden was made up. And
but it was how fast
understand,
it changed.
When everybody was sleeping in the dead of night.
And also, if you want to put all your eggs in the mail-in ballots box,
Yeah, I understand.
literally,
A little bit more about the argument that you
you're really giving 2,000 Mules more
to
credit.
the president
Right,
in that meeting
right.
as to why it wasn't a bad thing that mail-in voting was available.
largely two pillars to that argument, both of
This
which
is actually
I
arguing that it
previously
was stolen.
mentioned.
Right.
One,
Because
you know,
things are
we
going
feel the
well,
chance,
and then all of a sudden, these piles and piles of mail-in ballots started coming in, and that's what we saw in 2,000 Mules. We literally saw piles of votes coming in.
That's a
You'll notice I always use literally in the correct format. I believe in the English language still to this day. And that's one of the reasons I got so ripped and have had such insane shoulders my whole life.
Shoulder singular.
Because I'm that kind of, I'm like Thor. I'm driven and real, and I put in that work. And that's how I got this build. I used to have Grover arms. Did you know that?
I remember.
I used to not be able to wear suspenders because they would just slip off.
That's correct.
Because I had no shoulders. Now I have shoulders most of the time. I have shoulders at least 80% of the day.
Depending
There
on
we
how
go.
tense you are, yeah.
echoed mine and vice versa on those two topics.
This is a good look.
Mr. Stirewalt, you were at the decision.
Who's
desk
watching this?
at
I want to meet them.
Fox News on election night.
That's something we got to get on, by the way. Building our liberal website.
Yes.
I had another brilliant idea. You know how I was asking about that dude who records music for us?
Yeah.
So I'm listening to Anal Chinook live at Porter Hall in Carleton University in Ottawa, right? And I'm like, fuck, this is actually pretty good. Like these songs, we could have been known as a good band if we'd only recorded an album. My parents were way too cheap to help me out. All our parents were. But if we'd have recorded an album and had good production, like these songs, this could have been a good band. Guess what, Ryan?
What?
It hits me. Our
Record
buddy
the album.
there, we'll call him Joey, has a recording studio.
Yeah.
I give him the tape. He records the drums. He records the guitar. I remember the lyrics, and you can hear them on the thing. I sing the vocals.
Yeah.
We record Anal Chinook.
It's a re-recording.
Yes.
And if you want to play live, I can play
I
guitar.
don't want to play live. I learned that with my 80s hardcore cover band called 80s Hardcore. It's fucking exhausting, and you get a headache if you are.
You have to drink water.
If you sing hardcore. Oh, shut up, Detective Shitty.
I always got a headache and a backache after a performance.
No, it's the screaming at this age.
Oh.
You like even at practices, my head would be. I'd have a fucking splitting migraine. It was really unpleasant.
You should do it like Bob Dylan does, where he just goes lounge versions, so he doesn't have to push so hard with his vocals. You could be like,
Don't know where I
acid
got 'em,
rain.
don't know how. Did too many chicks. Look down and pow. I've got crabs, they itch like hell.
Yeah.
I'm scratching like a slut, but shit they smell. Ha, pubic lies.
Yep.
We already knew Trump's chances were very small and getting smaller.
We
based
didn't
on
make
what
it
we
through the
had
first
seen.
hour. I can't listen to this.
We were able to make the call early. We were able to beat the competition. We looked around the room. Everybody says yay, and on we go. And by the time we found out how much everybody was freaking out and losing their minds over this call, we were already trying to call the next state. We had already moved on. We were to Georgia. We were to North Carolina. We were looking at these other states. So we thought we were pleased, but not surprised.
I see. You know, after the election, as of November 7th, in your judgment, what were the chances of President Trump winning the election?
After that point,
Yes.
none. I mean, I guess it's always possible.
Look at her
that,
smile like, yes, good boy.
a truckload of ballots be found.
This gloating section is going really well for us.
Just nodding and nodding and yes,
Ahead of
good.
today, I thought about
Who is
what are
this
the largest
This is a
markets
propaganda
that
movie.
can
It's a
overturn
puppet
by
show.
vote
It's a
count
Muppet
in a
show.
normal kind of
where the DNC is arguing with the third of Americans who think there was something wrong with the election. They're saying, no, there wasn't.
Look how
Continue
many.
to support us.
It's a constant head nod.
Yes, yeah, yes, yes.
Outside
Good
the margin
boy.
of
Yes.
a recount. And when we think about that margin,
So,
we think about
you go down Broadway, all right? You get to 35th Street. Turn left at 35th, all right? It's not a one-way. It looks like a one-way because there's a bus lane there. You keep going till you get to 8th Avenue, okay? Now, you're basically in Hell's Kitchen, but you want to go all the way to 9th Avenue, okay? Now we're getting near Jacob Javits Center. Now, you can't park there, but there is cheap parking just in front of Jacob Javits, okay? So you go... I know, it's affordable for once. When I say affordable, I mean like $30 for a few hours. Sorry, what? You're saying something?
So I have make street parking, but I can't parallel park for shit. I mean, is there
No,
any
I hate
sort
when
of-
people say this, and I knew you were going to say this, Miss Lofgren.
Yes,
There is not public parking in the day in Manhattan.
Damn
Everyone,
Manhattan.
just go to Hell's Kitchen. Just go to the West Side Highway. Yeah, park there, nothing. Put it. No, there isn't. It's for commercial vehicles. You need to have something in your car that says like Dahlgren Logistics with the address of the place.
okay.
Then you can pay for that metered parking. But normal cars, no, you're going to have to pay. But on 9th Ave, it's not as ridiculous. It's still insane. But it's not as ridiculous as it is, closer to 6th Ave and closer to Penn Station and all that stuff. So, did you get this? Did you understand?
Yeah, yes.
I'm not joking. Why are you laughing?
No, I thought it was funny because when I thought you said hot dog vendor, and I'm like,
I can't hear you.
Why would they sell a hot dog on the side of
Is
the
your mic on?
Yes, it is. I wasn't coming through the speakers, you see, but okay. So I parked next to the hot dog vendor.
So then there's a strip club there called Pussy Dolls. Oh, shit.
I think she got it.
She's going to get lost. She doesn't know the city.
She is lost.
She just keeps nodding. I kind of like that name, Stipend. Stipian?
That is
Stepien. Oh, now I don't like it as much.
And as that week wore on, as the
That's what Howard Stern would get women to say.
We're going to wrap this up soon. I just want a morsel of anything. I even, it's sort of like sparring. Like if someone hits you in the face and it's a good hit, you don't go, fuck you, I hate you. You go, oh, that was fucking, you got a hell of a jab. That was fast. I want to get punched in the face. Give me something. Turn it up.
We paid attention to those numbers multiple times a day. Internally, I was feeling less confident for sure.
What was your view on the state of the election at that point?
Who gives a shit?
I don't fucking care.
How would that even matter?
Very, very, very bleak. We told him, the group that went over there outlined, my belief in chances for success at this point.
I give up.
And then we pegged it at
I am done.
5.
You're done.
Thank God we didn't make this the episode of the show today. That would have been a dumb move. Do I know that the election was stolen? No. I saw 2,000 Mules. It changed my life, actually. I feel very strongly that there was some malfeasance there. Did it change the election? I'm not positive. I don't know. I think so. My gut says yes, but I'm open to the evidence. Trump, I think, feels the same way as me.
He's so move. We don't know what he's planning.
Hold on, I'm coming.
But we both think something went wrong. I would argue that the people who stormed the Capitol are much more convinced that it was stolen. But simply talking about voting patterns for an hour doesn't help anyone. That's not the question here. The question is, did Trump purposely and purposefully mobilize his followers? And that's a very specific thing. It's not just like, fuck shit up, you guys. It has to be, we need to do this at this time. Are you familiar with Napoleon? Are you familiar with Genghis Khan, Attila the Hun? They didn't just say, go get shit. Go fuck it up. They had plans. If you're going to commit a coup, you have to be specific. You can't just say, it will be wild. That doesn't count as evidence. So, your allegations are sprawling, but they seem to be focused on Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and many others had planned to storm the Capitol, 1. 2, in order to prevent Biden from becoming sworn in. Now, we all know that say those were true, all you're doing is delaying him being sworn in. So it's a rude gesture, but is it a crime that's worth 20 years in prison? Nobody believes that. Nobody. On top of those two allegations, they're also trying to prove that Trump was inexorably linked to both of these things. He was linked to planning to storm the Capitol, and he also, his motive was to prevent Biden being sworn in. All three of those all together, which is what this hearing is about, this one-sided hearing, is a very weird allegation. You might as well say I started the Proud Boys to groom young men, and I have a secret sexual cabal that's in the back room. You got a lot of dominoes that have to fall before that's proven true. What do I believe personally? I do not believe there was any planning from any of these people to storm the Capitol. It was a spontaneous gesture that started with a few broken windows, a few barriers. 1. 2, I do believe that the DC police, and I have no evidence, this is just my hunch, wanted there to be a riot. It was very good. They went from a $12 million budget cut to a $2 billion budget surplus. They're now a federal agency now. We have a new wing of the police thanks to this, so it was very advantageous for them to pretend that they were being murdered. And I think that there was a plan to make this blow up. You'll notice the DNC regularly uses the Proud Boys and inflates their bad behavior to try to gain political points. This is what happened here. I believe that Trump thinks the election was stolen, and he's positive, unlike the rest of us that want to see more evidence, but we're going that way. And I don't believe for a millisecond that Trump planned to or even wanted his supporters to breach the Capitol and vandalize it and break windows. You know what those beliefs are that I just listed? They're normal American beliefs, regular dad shit. And these guys were also regular dads. So the DNC, the radical left, has declared war on radical dads. And it's regular dads. And it's kind of ironic because regular dads are the guys who made this place in the first place. Daddy issues. That's the name of this segment, because that's all of this, what all of this comes down to. Anyway, sorry we couldn't make it through 2 hours. I think actually you're pretty happy we didn't. And I don't end this with get fired. I just sort of stare blankly at the camera.
They say we extreme, yeah, I hear the chatter. I be Christ first and the rest don't matter. 2 a.m. we run up on my bastard, going no dramatic. Make America golly again, that's my favorite MAGA. And that